Hi, I'm Jo Hadley, and this is my podcast, Being a Human Lighthouse. I've been on a journey inwards, probably for decades now, I would say. It's definitely been speeding up exponentially in the last 5 to 7 years. And part of that journey has been wanting to know what true health is. But as I discovered how we become truly healthy and what is the meaning of true health and how it's blocked and how to potentially attain it, has also led me to realize that everything is so interconnected. I come originally from a very science medical background, but I also, in my younger days, wanted to be a screenwriter. And I was very interested, all my stories, very interested in how people transform after unpleasant events, life situations. And looking back, I can see just how my interest in trauma and patterns being held in the body was evident even in my writing when I was younger. I often wondered why nothing ever came of my writing. But the work I'm doing now makes me realize I kind of was in training. I was using my natural intuition and empathy and compassion and observing how what happens to people influences their life. And I think it's true for myself, and I think of many writers. Of course, we draw on what happens to ourselves. And I could see that I drew on myself, the many aspects of myself within my stories. It's funny, people would often ask if I was using them as a character. And sometimes I would use a template of people I would see, but I don't know what really goes on with inside them. I may just use the characteristics I saw, but I knew that nearly every character I wrote was being drawn from within myself. So those lessons I've carried with me. And as I've gone forward, I've become much more interested in science and spirituality, marrying my two interests in science and story writing and the arts. Everything is interconnected. A lot of people don't see that yet or don't want to see that yet. But I think, for me anyway, it's really easy to tell and see how we are all interconnected, and nothing we do in any aspect of our lives doesn't influence many others. I remember seeing a book many years ago about the history of art, and it was art set in the context of medical history, political history. So it was fascinating to see how everything emerges as a result of everything around it, just like we emerge from our own ancestral history. We are shaped by the political and social and cultural events around us. Carl Jung talked about the collective conscious or collective unconscious. And in science, there is this field called, well, it's got many names, unified field. It is a field that connects us all. And when you break a human body down into the smallest components, we are nothing but a series of fields, electromagnetic fields interacting. And these fields reach out and interact with others. And as others come into our field, it influences us. And we can see that by how different we are with different people in our lives. Some people we might be light and easy with, others we can be heavy and like want to withdraw from. We have different reactions to different people. Even if they're not physically touching us, our electromagnetic fields are interacting. And as I've gone down this path, I've understood that exercise is important, nutrition is important, but it's not the only thing in health. What we think is important. I grew up with a mother who had a lot of mental health issues. I have been brought up with a very fearful mother with lots of negative thoughts. And of course, being in that environment, that's been one of the challenges I've had to overcome as well. I've come a long way, but I know that it's probably a lifetime challenge of just letting go of all these things that I've absorbed naturally. And a lot of the work I did, even in the health field, whether it's to do with letting go of patterns and traumas and emotions held in the body, or letting go of the physical restrictions in the body, it's become really clear that we all got our own inner wisdom, this essence that knows how to look after ourselves. We always in health want people not to tell them what to do, but to allow them, to lead them into reconnecting with their own inner wisdom, their own innate healing ability. I see myself as nothing but a guide that shines light on the path where people can tread. But being a human, I'm also treading the same path. And in some areas, I'm ahead, in others, maybe not so ahead. We're all very complex individuals. I've theorized that as everything that is unprocessed and not fully dealt with is held in our bodies, including ancestral traumas and collective traumas. Everything is held within our bodies if we haven't dealt with it. Once we've actually transformed it, transmuted it, integrated, it's no longer stored in our body. And how do we know that? Because when we talk or think about a situation that used to really trigger us and create a lot of emotional intensity, we can talk about that story. We don't pretend it doesn't happen, but that emotional reaction is no longer there. It becomes a story. And once we've lost that emotional charge with it, it's no longer a trigger. And then we've reached post-traumatic growth, which is possible for all of us, no matter what we've been through. Sometimes we need more help. Sometimes we need more time. And we have to be compassionate with ourselves because we all have something and it healed and moved in its own time. I've come a long way in the last 7 years, the exponentially rapid transformation. Because before the 7 years, the ND medicine technique that I have learned and do, unity field healing, I probably would have run a mile from. But now I listen and understand these principles and it makes sense to me. Whereas before I wasn't ready and they made no sense. I found the work of David Hawkins, who explains the levels of consciousness and how as we release these trapped emotions, our level of consciousness raises and our perception of the world becomes different. This is a little bit like we may be in exactly the same spot, but if we're sitting in the floor, we're going to see the room differently to someone sitting on a chair, to someone standing on a table, and completely different to someone who might be floating on the ceiling. It's the same space, just viewed from a different perspective. And as we let go of our patterns, our programs, our traumas, unprocessed emotions, we rise and see things from a much bigger picture. I know I've changed a lot because things that used to bother me less. Things that I see triggering the people around me, I'm seeing from a different perspective. And I've learned not to even try to change others. I just allow them to have their perspective because I know when people try to make me see something ahead of what I'm ready to see, it won't work. And we all go at our own pace. I'm consciously interested in developing and moving higher and integrating unprocessed emotions. And I'm passionate about then helping others behind me who need to follow the same path. It's not an easy path because it's why we avoid it, because looking within and dealing with unprocessed emotions can be really unpleasant. And it's interesting because when we start to change ourselves, the people around us, sometimes they change for the good along with us, sometimes they leave, or sometimes they can really give us a hard time to try and drag us back down to where we were. Just reminds me of the adage, is it? Misery loves company. Sometimes when people are in a lower level of consciousness, they try and keep others there as well. It's very common in addiction circles that addicts try and keep each other down. I've heard some interesting stories in that respect. When people start to grow, it can be a tricky time for the people that are close to them because it's not always easy. So we have to grow when we're ready and when we've got the inner resources to be able to adapt to maybe letting go of people that no longer are, what should I say? I'm trying to say the word positive, that maybe not allowing us to be our true selves and not allowing us to grow and be who we want to be. My passion is science and spirituality, and I tend to read many books, especially in the last decade, of people who have PhDs or medical degrees. And it's very interesting, like people like Bruce Lipton or Candace Pert, who wrote Molecules of Emotion. Scientists who, through their research, through their work, and as documented in their books, end up going from pure science to a very spiritual perspective and a higher perspective at seeing things and integrating the two. And I find in my own life that's really, it's really true. And putting those principles into practice, I see them work. I find myself at the moment at a junction point, I call it. It's a bit of a dark night of the soul or a caterpillar in the cocoon waiting to jump to the next level. I feel like I'm in the midst or about to have a quantum shift. Or perhaps I've had the quantum shift and I'm just letting my body and mind catch up to it. I'm trying to put all my principles into practice, but it's curious. I have found in these last few months that there's a little pattern that I know has been there for a while. And I've managed to live and work around it and do things around it. But it's like the universe is going, you're not going ahead until you let go of this particular pattern. And this particular pattern is a little part of me that, despite the fact I believe in all the science and spirituality, I believe in higher powers, the universe, the source, and all that is. I understand it all from a quantum level, from a spiritual level, from an energy level. But there's this tiny part of me that sometimes doubts it's not going to work for me. And I've caught this part. I see it's there, and I know it's been there for a while. And so today I'm just acknowledging it publicly and just allowing myself to have self-compassion, because this particular pattern, it's taking time to integrate and resolve. It's a bit like a child throwing a tantrum, doesn't want to settle down. So I'm trying to give myself self-compassion and understanding as I just deal with this little part of myself that I know is possibly blocking my next step, my next move. So on that note, I finish off my podcasts always with my own meditative healing, transformation practice. And I'll do that again today. If you'd like to do this with me, I just ask you to sit down or lie down. It's meant to be done in the present moment, so you want to have your attention and your presence within you. And also, just make a mental note of how you're feeling physically, mentally. Give a scale of 0 to 10, how good you feel, how tense you feel, how anxious you feel. Just make a note of how much pain you may have and just see if anything changes or shifts. It may not. Okay, so I invite you to just settle into wherever you're sitting or lying. Just feel how you're supported in the physical world by the chair. Really just wiggle in and feel the body connecting to the chair, surface you're sitting on. Feel your feet on the floor and really ground into the floor and wiggle your toes and really connect into the ground and know that it's connected to the earth that provides us with all the food and nutrients that we need for our physical survival. Feel your feet connecting to the earth and knowing that you are connected to the planet that provides you with all your physical needs. Now I invite you to just to imagine you've got a cord going from the center of your skull, crown chakra area, extending right up to the center of the universe. You're just going to plug yourself into the center of the universe. So now you're connected to all that is in the universe and also to the physical material world beneath you. Just notice your breath. Be aware that as you breathe in, you're breathing in all the infinite knowledge and information contained in the universe. All around us, it seems like empty space isn't so empty. As you breathe in, imagine every breath is filling up every cell in your body with wisdom, love, oxygen. And as you breathe out, imagine everything you no longer need, no longer serves you, is being gently let go. Every breath in is filling up every cell with wisdom, light, love, oxygen. Every breath out is letting go of everything you no longer need and you're ready to let go of. Don't try and change your breath, just watch it. Now I invite you to just scan through your body gently. Are there areas of tightness, pain, discomfort, anything pleasant or unpleasant? Just invite you just to be curious, knowing that you're safe in your sitting or lying position. You're just witnessing and noticing sensations in your body, even if they're unpleasant. So you're just witnessing these sensations and noticing them, not trying to change them or judge them. They're not good or bad, even if they're unpleasant. They're just there. By witnessing our sensations with non-judgment and curiosity is a really important way of letting the unprocessed information and emotion stored in our body to gently release. Like a ball being pushed under the water. As we keep everything pushed down, as we let it go and observe it, it can sometimes push up really quickly and seem really intense to start with. But as you observe it, like waves in the ocean, some will get bigger, but then they'll recede. They may come back, but then they'll recede. Just notice these sensations. They're just sensations as you're sitting or lying. And the final stage of this process is I invite you to put your hand on your heart, if you like. It just brings our conscious awareness there. The heart has a lot more functions in our body than just pumping blood. As you bring your attention to the heart, imagine you're breathing a little bit lower and slower, and imagine you're going in and out through the heart. 3 low, slow breaths in and out through the heart. Now I invite you just to imagine what it would feel like if you were living the life of your dreams, the life that you, in your heart, desire. How would it feel to be doing work you loved? Who would be around you? Who would be supporting you? Would you have relationships that lifted you up and helped you expand into the best version of yourself? Where would you live? I want you to imagine in your body, if you were living this life that you would bring you the greatest joy, how would it feel if you were living it? You may or may not have any visions of what it would look like. It doesn't matter what it would look like on the outside. It's more important about what it would feel like if you were actually living this. How much joy would you feel? How much peace or love would you feel? How much light or expansion would you feel? How free would you feel? How would you feel if you were living this life that would have you getting up every morning just feeling like everything had meaning and purpose, and you just were lit up with joy and peace and love? And just by being this way and doing this, you're inspiring others. How would it feel? Now, as this meditative process comes to a close, I just invite you just to tune back into where you're sitting, where your feet are on the floor. Just give yourself a wiggle, feel your feet on the floor, move your hands. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. And I'd like you to just to check in. Has there been any change in pain levels, in tension or anxiety? How do you feel? A bit lighter? If there's any changes, questions, you can always leave them in the chat. And until then, have a great week.